In an industry where hype often overshadows substance and where creative agencies tend to mimic each other more than they innovate, Kendrick Lamar and Dave have once again taken a different route. Not with a song, not with a surprise album or a headline performance, but with the launch of something quieter, deeper, and potentially more influential in the long run. It's called Project 3, and it might just be the most ambitious chapter yet in the story of pgLang, the media company they co-founded in 2020. Welcome to celebrity rap life, where the red carpets never roll up and the spotlight never fades. The rewards are legendary. Because in celebrity rap life, every downfall can become a comeback, and every headline tells a deeper story. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a second of what's coming next. At its core, Project 3 is not just a creative agency. It's a recalibration of how businesses approach storytelling, branding, and identity. It's designed to be a full-service entity, offering everything from creative direction to content creation, production services, brand design, and long-term strategy. But what sets it apart isn't just its list of services. It's the philosophy guiding it all. To understand Project 3, you have to understand pgLang. When Kendrick and Dave launched the company, they didn't drop a standard mission statement. Instead, they released a cryptic, visually hypnotic short film starring Baby Keem and Georgia Smith, with no clear explanation. That alone told you everything you needed to know. pgLang isn't about loud announcements. It's about layered storytelling. About letting the audience read between the lines. And in that spirit, Project 3 carries that same mystique, deliberately quiet but potentially seismic in its impact. Project 3's name is inspired by the classic three-act structure of storytelling: beginning, middle, and end. It's a reference not just to narrative form, but to the shape of transformation. According to those close to the venture, the idea is to help brands build identities that don't just look good on a billboard or an Instagram feed, but that endure, evolve, and communicate purpose with clarity. That's not something you slap together in a design sprint or toss off in a campaign. That's a story that needs time, depth, and a soul. To bring this vision to life, pgLang didn't start from scratch. They strategically acquired Frosty, a creative studio that has been one of pgLang's closest collaborators over the past few years. If you've paid close attention to pgLang's visual identity, the distinct, minimalistic but emotionally potent aesthetic, you've already seen Frosty's fingerprint. By bringing them officially into the fold, pgLang is creating an ecosystem where their internal style, tone, and values can be translated into client work without compromise. It's important to recognize that this isn't Kendrick stepping into the commercial world out of some vanity-driven curiosity. This is an expansion of the same instinct that's always driven his art: control over narrative, deep intention, and the pursuit of meaning. Whether it's an album like To Pimp a Butterfly or a minimalist ad for Calvin Klein, what ties it all together is authorship. Project 3 allows Kendrick, Dave, and the pgLang Brain Trust to extend that authorship to brands and businesses who are seeking more than just attention. They're seeking significance. Let's talk a little about timing. Project 3 doesn't arrive in a vacuum. It launches at a time when traditional advertising is struggling to cut through the noise. Consumers are burned out by soulless campaigns. Algorithms are changing faster than agencies can keep up. In that chaos, the brands that win are the ones that communicate clearly, emotionally, and with coherence across every medium. That's where Project 3 comes in, not as a typical ad agency, but as a long-game partner. And they're not just targeting massive Fortune 500 companies. The idea is to work across the board, with emerging brands, mission-driven companies, and legacy institutions looking to reintroduce themselves to a new generation. Think of it less like Mad Men and more like a cultural workshop. Less like content for hire and more like narrative sculpting. At every stage, beginning, middle, and end. Already, the industry is buzzing. Creative insiders are paying attention not because pgLang is famous, but because it's respected. That's a distinction that matters. Fame is about visibility. Respect is about consistency, intention, and originality. pgLang has spent the last 4 years building a language of its own, rooted in minimalism, sincerity, and a refusal to follow trends. Project 3 is that language applied externally, to help others find their own. And the collaboration with Frosty isn't just cosmetic. The studio brings a track record of intuitive design and storytelling, often expressed in visual choices that feel effortless yet deeply intentional. Frosty's work has always carried a quiet elegance, a kind of restraint that values the viewer's intelligence. By joining forces with pgLang, they now operate with greater resources and vision alignment, allowing Project 3 to scale its capabilities without losing its essence. Internally, Project 3 is structured to function as a creative symphony. Not just a team of designers and copywriters executing briefs, but thinkers, cultural strategists, and filmmakers working together under a unified lens. Dave Free, who's always been more than just Kendrick's manager or creative partner, plays a crucial role here. His vision of multidisciplinary storytelling, one that cuts across music, film, branding, and live experience, is central to the agency's model. In many ways, Project 3 is also a reflection of Kendrick Lamar's evolving philosophy. This is a man who once told the world, "I'm not the next anyone, I'm the first Kendrick Lamar." He's always approached artistry not as a sprint, but as a legacy. With Project 3, he's extending that philosophy into the business world, proposing that creativity should be just as emotionally rigorous and purposeful in commerce as it is in music or poetry. The team behind Project 3 seems to understand that culture can't be manufactured, but it can be amplified. And to do that well, you need partners who don't just understand style or trends, but who understand timing, tone, and truth. That's what makes pgLang's approach different from the usual suspects in the creative agency world. They're not selling a vibe. They're offering a voice, a story, a compass. It's no accident that pgLang keeps attracting the kinds of collaborators that other companies spend millions trying to chase down. From Calvin Klein campaigns to Kendrick's own Pulitzer-winning body of work, the thread that runs through it all is a focus on narrative with weight. Not just cool-looking imagery. Not just viral potential. But ideas that stay with you. Project 3 is an attempt to bottle that approach and offer it as a service to those who are ready to invest in more than metrics. What this means for the broader creative industry is still unfolding. But early signs point to a shift. If pgLang can prove that story-first creative work not only moves culture but also moves product, they may force other agencies to reevaluate their entire models. That's not a small feat, but then again, nothing Kendrick does is ever about just the moment, it's about the echo. The choice to name this Project 3, rather than something flashier, is revealing in itself. It implies process. It implies structure. And it places the emphasis not on the creators but on the clients, the audience, and the story itself. There's no ego in the name. Just a framework. A promise that every brand they work with will be treated like a narrative worth telling with care. For young creatives watching from the sidelines, this is a case study in what it looks like to build slowly and with purpose. pgLang didn't rush to monetize their buzz. They didn't overextend or dilute their identity. They waited. They collaborated. They refined. And now with Project 3, they're launching something that doesn't just reflect where they are, but where the industry could go if it stops chasing trends and starts honoring truth. There's also a deeper layer to this story, especially if you've been following Kendrick's personal and artistic trajectory. In his lyrics, he's constantly returning to the themes of legacy, evolution, and responsibility. Project 3 feels like a natural extension of that. It's about building systems that outlast the moment. Infrastructure that supports expression not just for artists, but for companies, communities, and cultures. The implications go even further. With a model like Project 3, pgLang is positioning itself not just as a creative partner, but potentially as an incubator for socially conscious business practices. Imagine a future where companies use storytelling not just to sell, but to teach, heal, or mobilize. Where campaigns don't just entertain but elevate. That's the kind of future Kendrick and Dave have always pointed toward, even if they've never spelled it out in press releases. For now, the work will speak for itself. That's how pgLang prefers it. No loud billboards. No launch parties. Just real collaboration with real outcomes. The projects coming out of this new agency will be the proof. The partnerships they form. The brands they shape. The conversations they ignite. In an era where everyone wants to be seen, pgLang and Project 3 are choosing to be felt. That might be the boldest move of all. This story is far from over, and the truth is still unfolding. I want to hear what you think. Drop your take in the comments. And if you don't want to miss the next twist, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a second of what's coming next.